Hi there, and welcome to Ask the Chiropractor. I'm Dr. Paul Rodnick, practicing out of Saginaw, Michigan, and we have a great show in store for you guys today. First, let's meet our guest. We got Dr. Neil Rodnick here.
Good morning.
Practices out of Midland, Michigan, and Clare, Michigan at the moment?
Yep.
All right. And today we have a very exciting topic, a little bit different than our usual shows. Usually we're focusing just on the chiropractic aspect of health. Today we're going to be focusing on a different aspect of health. Just real quick, I want to touch on what we call the 5 pillars of health. We call it living the dream. Now, living the dream, each one of those letters is an acronym. Each letter stands for something that contributes to being healthy, and if you're doing all 5 of them, then that's how you're truly healthy. You're living the dream. So the M in dream is what we usually talk about as chiropractic, is maintenance of the spine and the nervous system. And that's really important for health. Today we're going to be focusing on the A in dream, but let's kind of work our way through the letters for a second, and then we'll jump into the A. So diet, D stands for diet. Diet isn't what a lot of people think. A lot of people think of diet, and they think of a specific, this is the diet to lose weight, whether it's Atkins or no cholesterol, whatever their diet is. But that's not what diet is. Diet's just, whatever you put in your body is what your diet is. But having a good, healthy diet, that's important for health. The second letter in the DREAM acronym is R. R stands for rest. You got to stay proper rested. You got to get your sleep. Anyone who hasn't slept for a night knows sleep is a very vital part of staying healthy. The A, again, is what we're going to be talking about today, and it's attitude, or more so positive mental attitude. And we're actually going to read a story today from B.J. Palmer. He's the one who developed chiropractic. His father founded chiropractic, and he wrote a series of books to go along with healthcare with chiropractic. And one of those books is called The Bigness of the Fellow Within. You want to introduce that real quick?
Sure. This one's called The Bigness of the Fellow Within. B.J. Palmer wrote it in 1949. And it's a series of short stories in there, kind of things to go along with attitude of life, and some chiropractic stories and things in there. And we picked a little excerpt called the story of that something for you guys today.
And it's a fantastic story. I'm excited, looking forward to getting into it. Real quick, I think I skipped the E.
Yep.
E is for exercise. Of course, exercise is a really important part of staying healthy as well. But we're not going to get into each of those. Today we're just going to be focusing on the positive mental attitude when we're talking about that something. So without further ado, Dr. Neil?
I guess we'll jump right into it. So this is called The Story of That Something. Then Randolph turned to me. Man, write that story you've told us. Write it so that every man may read. Send that message out into the world. If men will read that story, read and reread, until it is written on their memories. If men will believe the message you bring, and then if they will but awaken that something within their souls that now lies asleep. I say, if you can make men do this, you will have done more for mankind than any man or any 1,000 men have done in many, many years. Write it, man. Write it word for word as you have told it here, so that every man may read. Write it, man, write it, and so it has been written.
And let me just kind of give our viewers a little pretext here. So this story, the wording's kind of interesting. It was written back in, what year was this
1949.
book? 1949. The story itself takes place in America during the Great Depression. I don't know if we have the actual year, but
it says exactly where it's at either.
It's Great Depression America. A lot of people are out of work. A lot of people are having financial issues, and that's where this guy comes in. It kind of starts the story at the end to telling him to write the story, but now we're going to take it from the beginning.
All right. This happened a long, long time ago. I never see a man limp without thinking of that day. The sky wept. No rift of brighter color broke the drabness of it. I thought the universe wept. That was my outlook. The very times were in misery. Men were out of work. I was one of them. I had slept the night before on the cold cement floor of the city jail. I slept as a tired dog sleeps, a dog worn out with a fruitless chase. All of the night before, I had walked, my pride keeping me from this place. And so the day that found me walking aimlessly, looking for food, shelter, and work. This could not last forever. So that night I had stumbled down the low, narrow hallway of the jail and had been led into a barred cell with 100 others. And there I had lain as one dead on the cold, hard floor. But it is of the day that followed that night in jail that you shall hear. For that was the day of my life. It was when I found that something. My feet were very tired. My soul wept with the sky. I stood in the wilderness alone, on the corner of the great thoroughfare in a great city. And then a man stopped by my side. He was of my height and build. I caught a glimpse of his face. I thought that this man might have been myself but my present need drove out reflections. I laid my hand on his arm. I am hungry, I said simply. He turned slowly and looked at me. First his gaze took in every detail of the outer man, from my water-soaked cap to my poor, cracked shoes, and then through my eyes he seemed to search my soul. I stood there ashamed. I laugh when I think of that now, but it was different then. Well, he said presently, suppose you were fed, then what then? I shifted my weight from one tired foot to the other. I'd try to get a job somewhere, I muttered after a moment. You'd try? He asked. Yes, try, I answered. Although there is little chance, nobody wants men now. I'll try, sir, but I don't care for that now. It's food I want. I'm hungry. Can you help me? No, he answered, a note of pity in his voice. I cannot help you. No man can. But you could feed me, I said, with some petulance in my voice. It is not food you need. What then? I asked. That something, was his reply. A man joined him. They began talking of matters of mutual interest. I was shuffling away through the drizzling, miserable rain when he called me back and handed me his card. Man, go find that something, he said. Go find that something, he said, and then you found it. When you found it, come to me. Come to you for what? I asked. To thank me, was his answer. And he and his friend passed on. There were two words that stuck in my memory. That something. I fell to wondering. I turned into a pool room and found a seat. I sat there thinking. The balls on the tables before me clicked nickels away from men who could ill afford the pleasures of this place. I sat there a long, long time. There was nowhere else to go. Ahead of me I saw another night in jail, yet that the day seemed longer than the night. It was warm in there. The hum of voices, the regular click, click, click of ivory, the occasional thumping of cue on marble floor, all this in time developed into a dull chorus of monotony. And then I fell asleep. I believe in God. I believe in miracles. I believe in visions as well. But it is only natural that I should have dreamed of that something, so perhaps it was neither miracle nor vision. You will think it a foolish dream, yet it changed my life. That's reason enough for telling. You may laugh at it scornfully, then my dream will do you no good. You may see in it what I saw, and then it will take your place with the masters of men. This was my dream. I dreamed that I awoke. This is the most wonderful part of the dream, for in my dream I realized that I had been asleep a long, long time, from the very beginning of things. I saw myself there in the pool room asleep. Then I saw myself start. My eyes opened, and I dreamed that I saw. What awakened me? I asked in my dream. You awakened yourself, answered a voice nearby. I turned about, but no one was there. Who are you? I asked. I am that something, came the reply. But where are you? I am hidden in your soul. For some moments I thought over what was said. Then I stammered. How did you get there? I was born there. Why have I not known you were there before? No man knows it, answered the voice, until he awakes. Are you in other men's souls as well? There is that something in every man's soul, which can move the mountains or dry the seas. Then you must be faith. Yes, came the answer. I am faith, but I am more. I am that which makes men face the fires of hell and win. Then you must be confidence as well. Yes, I am more than confidence. I am that which makes the babbling brooks lift the worlds upon their wavelets. You are power, I cried. Yes, I am power, I am more than power, answered the voice. I am that which makes the wretched failure lift himself and rule the world. You are ambition. I know you now. Yes, I am all you say, faith, confidence, power, ambition, and more. For greater than all is that something. I am that which every man must find in his soul, or else he will be a clutter of the earth which he lives on. But how can man find you? Even as you are finding me now, first you must awaken, then seek, and when you have found, you must learn to control. Control what? I asked, confused. that something. Borrow it from your soul and baptize your life with it. Anoint your eyes that you may see. Anoint your ears that you may hear. Anoint your heart that you may be. But tell me, I cried frantically, for the voice was trailing off to almost nothing. How can I do this? How? How? This is the secret, came the voice to me as a whisper of the gentle breeze. These words, I will. And then I awoke with a start. A man was shaking me roughly. Clear out of here. We ain't running no free rooming house for bums. If you want to sleep, take a sleeper, but then get out of here. I will, I answered unthinkingly, as I turned toward the door. I will. My word...
Let's just jump in real quick here. I think that dream is really important as far as the story goes here. We're first getting a glimpse of what that something is, and what that something is, again, is something that's inside everybody. It's not just a storybook thing. That, it's real. And it is all those things that he was talking about. It's the ambition, the power, the
driving force.
The driving force inside. Everyone's got that inside of them. And I think it's really important too. The I will. And we're talking about today. We're going to be talking about the power of positive thinking, and that power of positive thinking. That something becomes the power of positive action, and that's the I will. The I will is positive action taken from positive thought, taken from within. Anyone can do it. Anyone can have positive action. Anyone can have positive thinking. When you hear people saying, "Oh, I can't do this, I can't do that," there's a lot of negativity there, and I think the moral of this story is to get away from that, to get into the positivity.
I'm just going with the story too, saying that anybody has it. It's in everybody. You can see in the story too. Just talking, this guy was a total bum, living on the streets, getting arrested every night, spending the nights in jail. So just to show the whole.
And I know where this story goes to, so I'm really excited to get back into it. But I just want to stop there for a second and just jump in and kind of elaborate a little bit more on that. Something that it's not something that was only around in the Great Depression. It's something here and now within each and every person on this planet, just waiting to be awakened.
Okay. So my words brought back the dream vividly. I stood in the doorway peering out into the rain. A boy with a dozen bundles stopped near me to shift his load. I'll help you, son, I said, and laughed gladly as I took off half of his load and started with him down the street. Gee, mister, that's pretty square of you, all right. How far are you going this way? Where are you taking these things, I asked. He told me. Why, that's right where I'm going, I answered in mock surprise, so we hurried on our way. It was then the clouds overhead began to break. Before we had gone halfway, the sun peeped out, and the boy laughed with pure delight of it. By golly, mister, she's going to be some handsome day tomorrow, ain't it? I will, I answered absently. He looked at me, startled by my answer, started to ask a question, then thought better of it, and giving me another queer look, trudged on in silence. When he had delivered his packages, he turned back towards the thoroughfare and asked me, with the innocent impertinence of boyhood, Say, mister, where do you work? Why, I'm working for you right now. It's good to work, don't you think? But ain't you got no steady job? Yes, I answered firmly, I will. Again he cast a queer look and quickened his pace. We went together to the store at which he worked. It was the largest in the city. We hurried through a doorway at the rear and found myself in a large room. A man stepped up to me and asked what I wanted. I have come here to work. What department? Who sent you? There were many men there, packing boxes. Before I could answer his question, someone called him and he hurried away. I took off my coat, hung it on a nail, and started to work, following the example of those near me. Half an hour later, the man who first accosted me passed. Oh, he said, so they put you at it while I was gone, did they? I'm doing my best, sir, I answered as I drove a nail with a bang. And so I worked until 6 o'clock. The sun was very bright outside. When the 6 o'clock bell rang, the men began filing by the clock. What about the clock? I asked the man in charge. Didn't they give you a number? No. Then I told him my name. He gave me a number, and I punched out. The boy was waiting for me at the door. How'd you get the job? He asked curiously. That was secured for me before I showed up there. Who got it for you? That something was my answer. Quit stringing me. How'd you get on? I seen a dozen men trying to get in on that work this morning, and they was all turned down. But I explained with a smile, they had never found that something. He again favored me with a queer look. Where do you live? He asked finally. I'm going to find a place now. Well, my ma keeps a boarding house. Why don't you come up with me to my place? There was but one other boarder. He was a professor of a number of ology branches at the nearby denominational college. He was a little man with unreasonable hair on his face and very little on his head. He wore thick glasses perched on a beaked nose. His eyes were small and black, like shoe buttons. He watched me as I ate. When my meal was finished, he invited me to sit with him in his room. I hope you don't mind my prying, he asked, but I've been trying to figure you out. Yes, I have come to the conclusion that you are a student of sociology, I laughed. Bobby tells us that you are packing boxes down at the store. I nodded in assent. Then of course it is for the study of conditions of working masses that you are down there. Yes, I admitted. I am very much interested in the conditions of the masses right now. Then you can help me. I am writing a series of papers on that very subject. Will you answer me this, please? What is it that keeps the underdog down? What is it the upper 10 possess that the under 10,000 do not have? Why, it's that something, I answered. What do you mean? Education? Environment? Before my mind was flashed at the picture of my boyhood. I saw my room on the top floor of a city block building. I saw myself sleeping in dry goods boxes and alleys, and by the boilers in the boats on the river. Yes, I was an alley cat and a wharf rat. I saw myself placed at the mercy of 5 stepmothers and a father engrossed in his science. I saw myself working, gaining little or no schooling, and then in the twinkling of an eye the scene changed, and I saw that awful room with 100 men lying there around me on the cold, hard floor. No, I answered thoughtfully. It is neither of those things. That something is entirely different. I don't know just what it is, but I am going to find it, pin it down, and then I will tell you more of it. As I looked into his face, I noticed the same puzzled expression the boy had worn. So by mutual consent, the subject was changed, and we talked about trivial things. For a week or more, I packed boxes and drove nails. I was a good packer. I made that something work with me all the time.
I'm just going to jump in right here, too. There's another concept in chiropractic philosophy. Again, it's not that much about chiropractic, but it goes along with the positive thinking, positive action. That's what we call the lasting purpose. And the lasting purpose, what it is giving for the sake of giving, loving for the sake of loving, and doing for the sake of doing, and expecting nothing in return. And that's a good example here. He just showed up and he started working for the sake of working. He didn't even have in mind that he was going to get paid or that he was going to get on the clock. He just wanted to work for the purpose of working, and it's the I will, I can, I will, I must kind of thing. And he expected nothing in return, and he did it just for the sake of doing it. And that it's the I will, it's that positive action that leads to more positive circumstances. And that's what happened in the story. He went from nothing to all of a sudden he's got a job and a boarding house. So it really shows the power of that positive thinking, the positive action, the power of that something.
Power of just doing.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. As Nike likes to say, just do it.
Right? Okay. So one day I noticed the shipping clerk had more work than he could handle. There were idle men in the department. They could do nothing until he checked them up. I laid down my hammer, walked over to where he stood, and said, I am to help you this afternoon. He looked up with a start. Oh, he exclaimed. Well, that's good. I'm glad they have the sense enough to give me somebody to help out at last. He handed me a bunch of papers and made room for me at the desk. The superintendent of the department was out of the room at the time. Presently he returned and glanced at me curiously. So they've got you up here helping Dickie, he said. I shrugged my shoulders without looking up and continued figuring. When I left the room that night, the superintendent of the department joined me. He said, I never did get on to how you were put up in here. What's the idea? Working through to learn the business? Yes, I answered with confidence, just that. I am to learn every detail of it. I thought something of the kind, to which one of them were you related. I do not think it wise to discuss that at this time, was my answer. Oh, sure, he hastened to say. I don't mean to be inquisitive. Anything you can do, or anything I can do to help you, let me know. And then he left me. The shipping clerk was a bright young fellow. I liked him, and he liked me. One day, shortly after I had received my first raise in wages, he came to me with a problem. That night I stayed down with him, and we worked it out together. We soon got into the habit of staying down one night each week, working over his systems. He lacked originality. I helped him. He had been doing things just like the fellow before him. The business had been growing rapidly, practically doubled. We worked out an improved system. We drew up plans, planned out every detail. One day he carried our plans to the man in authority. There came up a question which the shipping clerk did not quite understand, so they sent for me. My approach was far different from that of the sniveling beggar who had asked the man on the street corner for food. The man in authority looked at me in surprise. "Who are you?" I handed him my card. "You are packing boxes?" he asked in surprise. "I am in the packing room temporarily." Then he went over to the shipping clerk's plans in detail. "I think they're all right. I'll have these forms sent to the printer in the morning," he said, the man in authority. As we turned to leave the office, he called me back. "How long have you been in the packing room?" 63 days, I answered. "You've been there too long." There is nothing more for you to learn there, is there?" "No." He studied me for a while in silence. "Funny, neither of them has said anything about you." He said at length, speaking half to himself, "I suppose the old man's idea was for you to work out your own salvation. Is that it?" "In a way," I replied. "What any man accomplishes must eventually come from that something within him." He pondered this for a moment. Then he scrawled a few words on a piece of paper. "Hand that to Perkins in the auditing department tomorrow morning, and we'll see how you show up in there." I thanked him and turned to leave the room. And say, calling me back, "Better forget about my having said anything about your relations with the old man. After all, you see, it's none of my business." Certainly, I answered and left the room. 3 months later, I left Bob's mother's boarding house. It hurt me to do so. She had been almost like a mother to me. There was a home life about the place which I had learned to love. Even the little hairyology professor and his fanciful theories had become dear to me. But that something demanded me to move on, so I moved up the hill. I arranged for a room at a quiet boarding house. It was the suggestion of the man in authority that I chose his boarding house. So we became acquaintances, then friends, and never once did the man in authority mention the fact that I was learning the business. And so a year rolled around. It was the time that Perkins took his vacation. I was given the place until he returned. One day the man came to me into the office, looked at me keenly. Soon the man in authority came in. The old man called him aside. I overheard a portion of their conversation. "Who's the man at Perkins' desk?" the old man asked. The man in authority mentioned my name. Funny, I had never heard of him before, the man in authority gasped. The rest was spoken in guarded tones, and I heard no word further. That night the man in authority came into my sitting room. "Say," he began, "you've certainly got me locoed or something of the sort. I have been figuring you out all along as a ward or a long-lost cousin of the old man. Now today he comes in, jumps on me about putting you in a place of responsibility without first knowing all about you. Of course, I know you're all right, but by Jupiter, I'm placed in a deucedly unholy kind of light." "What's all the trouble?" I asked. "My work going wrong?" "I should say not. But that's aside from the question. What's got me going is how the dickens you did it. How you got to hold down the most responsible job in the works without anybody knowing just what you really are. Tell me about yourself, will you?" "I was born of poor but honest parents in a small coal mining town, Chair, Iowa, in the year 1881. My father peddled fish in a wheelbarrow. My mother died when I was 1.5 years old." Cut the bunk. Tell me to whom you are related or who is backing you up. It's pull that counts these days. Who gave you your start with the company?" I leaned back in my leather Morris chair. Memory brought back the picture of the drab day just 1 year before, and that brought my mind the card that you had been given me. I had not thought of it until that minute. I arose, went to the closet where the very suit I had worn on that eventful day. I had kept it as a souvenir of my awakening. As I hoped, the card was in the pocket of the shabby vest. For the first time, I read the engraved thereon. Matthew Morrison Randolph Bonds. I handed the card to the man in authority. He read it with wandering eyes. Now, Randolph was the silent partner of the business. Impossible coincidence? You may think so. I know men who believe success is impossible, and to them success is impossible. And so perhaps you believe this impossible, but I tell you as it has happened. Funny, Randolph never mentioned your name to the old man. Anyways, I wish I'd known this when he was talking about you that day. I'm glad you didn't. I answered with a short laugh. Why, he asked, puzzled. Go there to the phone and call up Randolph. I think he will tell you why. But, he began, go on and call him up. I want you to, I insisted. In a moment, Randolph was on the line. Ask him, I insisted. The man in authority did so. I watched the changing expressions on his face. You say you never heard of the man, gasped the man in authority. Why, he's holding down the most responsible job on the place. Better let me talk to Mr. Randolph, I interrupted. His hand was trembling as he surrendered the phone. Mr. Randolph, I said, I know you do not remember my name, for I am quite sure you've never heard it. You may remember, however, one miserable day a year ago, when a beggar asked you for food. Well, go on, came a crisp voice over the phone. You may also remember telling that beggar that it was not food he needed. It was that something, and that alone. Well, Mr. Randolph, I am the beggar to whom you spoke, and I have found that something. I have learned to use it, and I want to thank you for having shown me the way. When may I have the opportunity of telling you about it? An hour later, the story you have just heard was told to a strange trio, the man in authority, the professor of ologies, and Matthew Morrison Randolph. From time to time, as I told the tale, Randolph nodded his head in approval, and I noticed a strange light begin to glow in the little professor's eyes. When I had finished, we sat for a long time in silence, broken at last by Randolph, who said, And now tell me just what you think that something really is. I shook my head in dismay. You folks know as much as I do about it, I answered. But of this one thing I am convinced, through and through, it is real human power, as truly real as a commercial electric current. It is the power of the inner man, the fuel of the soul machine. It is the one thing necessary until we awaken that something of the soul. We bear on our muscles those who have found that something. We bear on up the mountain to take the places among the masters of men. That something lies dormant in every man's soul until roused. With many it sleeps until the last great sleep. Sometimes it does not wake until man stands tottering at the border of the grave. Sometimes it is found by the child playing by his mother's knee. A man's success depends alone on that something of his soul. Abraham Lincoln found it when a lad. It warmed the cold floor on which he laid and studied. I added light to the flickering glow of the wood fire, that he might see to read. It spurred him on and on and on. That something is an awful force. It made of a puny courtesan of the ruler of the world. It made of a thin-chested bookkeeper the money king of the great county. It made Edison the great man of his age. It made Carnegie. It made Woodrow Wilson. It made Roosevelt. It can make you. It is now in your soul. Awaken it now. That something. Again the silence followed. I watched the professor of ologies. I saw the kindled fire in his eyes gradually die out. He shook his head warily. No, it can't be done. It can't be done, he muttered. I have drunk deeply of the cup of life, and I am now drinking the dregs. The cup is filled but once, and when it's gone there's nothing left but the dregs of old age and poverty. You fool, cried Randolph, leaning forward and shaking the little man roughly. You almost had that something in your power, and now you sing it back to sleep with your silly song of pessimism. It's the false philosophy with such as you sing, which has kept men in the ruts of their own digging for centuries past. Wake, man, wake. Wake that something within your soul. The two men sat looking deeply into each other's eyes. It was the little man who broke the silence. "Thank you, Randolph," he said quietly. "You are right. I will." Then Randolph turned to me. "Man, write that story you've told us. Write it so that every man may read. Send that message out into the world. If men will read the story, read and reread until it is written on their memories. If men will believe the message you bring, and then if they will but awaken that something within their souls that now lies asleep. I say if you can make men do this, you will have done more for mankind than any man or any 1,000 men have done in many, many years. Write it, man, write it, word for word as you have told it here, so every man may read. Write it, man, write it, and so it has been written. You have heard it through. I pray that you may hear it every word again and again, that something of your souls has been aroused, and you have taken your places among the rulers of the world." The end, which is the beginning.
And that is just a fantastic story. Gives me goosebumps every time I hear it.
Mm-hmm.
The power of that something is just such a underestimated, underutilized. Most people don't even understand that there's something bigger within them that they can tap into that can really change their lives. And it's funny too. The whole story is about that something. It's about the power of that something, the power of positive thinking. Right at the end, though, it kind of touches on the light too of what happens if you go the other way. If you bring pessimism and negativity into it, it can put that something right back to sleep. And I think that's really interesting. But now, getting a little bit away from that, something more back into just positive mental attitude. When I tell people the 5 pillars of health, and I tell them, you should be doing all these things to stay healthy, positive mental attitude, they say, oh, well, that doesn't make a difference. That has nothing to do with my health. And so I just want to point out also, I always tell people, the difference between a positive event in your life compared to a negative event. And the negative events always end up following with more negativity. So for example, I like to talk to people about, if you've ever experienced the loss of a loved one or a breakup with a loved one, and your health kind of goes downhill afterwards. Or and another example I like to give is if we had 2 people in the exact same situation, both of them post-surgery or recovering from open heart surgery or whatever it may be, 2 people in 2 rooms, exact same situation, exact same chances of survival. One person has balloons and flowers and their family is visiting them and their spouse never leaves their side, compared to room B, and it's a person where the nurse checks on them every now and again. Which one do you think has a better chance of survival, of recovery?
The one with the family and the positive recovery style.
Positivity outweighs negativity every time, and that's just such a great story. And I like how it starts and ends at the same spot too. It's just saying, write the story, tell the story. And I also really like the end, which is also the beginning, which is a really interesting way to close the story. Anything else you want to touch on in the story?
Just the one other thing besides that something he kept repeating was the "I will." And that's another big one too with the attitude, is just keep that message in your head. It makes things a lot easier, kind of comes along better when you're working toward actually getting to the point and not kind of distracting yourself in different directions.
And a lot of people end up being timid or backing off when they don't quite realize the power of that something, or the power of I will, or the power of positivity in general, and that they get timid and say, no, I won't. It's that I won't compared to that I will. It really makes a difference in a lot of people's lives, and I think it's a really important message. And I want to apologize to the viewers too. I know it's kind of weird just reading on the show, but I think the message is so clear. I mean, I don't think the apology was really necessary, because it's just a fantastic story and very well read. Thank you so much, Dr. Neal.
Yep.
So a couple things I also want to get into. Again, we were talking about the positivity, but I just kind of want to jump into some of the other dream items that a lot of people don't utilize enough, and how I think they all work together. Now, the dream, it's what we call a synergistic, so diet, rest, exercise, attitude, and maintenance of the spine nervous system. They all work together. So if you're doing 4 out of the 5, that's good, but you're never going to be truly healthy. So positive mental attitude, again, is one of those 5. If you're not staying positive, keeping a positive attitude, keeping a positive mentality, no matter what else you do, whether you're exercising all the time, keeping a proper diet, getting adjusted, keeping your spine and nervous system in line, all that doesn't work if you're leaving one out. Or another example, so I'm positive and I'm getting adjusted and everything's working right, but at the same time, I'm not eating right and I'm vitamin deficient. And just that one aspect out of the 5
tear apart the rest of
the
other 4. Yep.
And the one we're talking about today, the positive mental attitude, again, that's the one that most people just really overlook. When you ask somebody, how do you become healthy, most people will tell you, diet, exercise, sleep. Most people kind of overlook, too, the maintenance of the spine and nervous system, which, again, I want to point out for a second why that's so important. That's what we do as chiropractors, so that's what we talk about on most of our shows anyways, but I just want to take a second and talk about that, why it's important to have maintenance of the spine, and then we'll kind of get back into the attitude. But the spine is the most important area of the body, and when I ask people, why do you think the spine's the most important, they always say, oh, well, because it holds you up or because it moves. Most people don't realize that the spine is important because that's where the nervous system lives. The brain sits right on top. Most people understand brain on top controls everything in the whole body. You can ask a 4-year-old, what controls your body? The brain comes up every time. So most people don't understand that, but what they don't understand is the brain communicates with the body through the spinal cord, right down through the spine, comes out, branches out through all these nerves. So that's how the brain communicates with the body, and that's how the body communicates back to the brain. And what can happen is, actually, do you want to take a minute and you want to explain the subluxation?
Sure. Let me grab this off of here. So basically what can happen in the spine is when the bones can move out of place, show you on this side here, it will pinch off the little hole where the nerves are actually coming through, and it can decrease the function of different areas. If you take a look at the chart up here, so the bones out of place, putting in a pressure on the nerves, can decrease their function, and it actually can cut off things going through your body, and it's the way that everything in your body is functioning. So depending on the area that's pinched off, can cause different problems to that area.
And it goes both ways as well. The brain communicates with the body. That message can get pinched off. So if the brain's trying to tell your body to do something, let's say your brain's trying to tell your heart, beat faster, we're going for a run. If it's not getting that right message, you could have low blood pressure, or vice versa. It said, we just got back from the run, we can start slowing our heart down. If the brain and the body aren't communicating properly, it'll really affect that. But it also goes both ways. If the body's trying to tell if your stomach's trying to tell your brain, we need more stomach acid because we just ate all this food, and that message is getting blocked off. Now we can have, too much stomach acid. Now we're getting heartburn or whatever it may be. But I think it's a lot of people don't understand why it's important to keep your spine healthy, your nervous system healthy, and that's exactly why. It's just to make sure that your brain can control your body like it was meant to. And then the one that's, again, really overlooked is the positive mental attitude. Really makes all the
really
difference.
Probably one of the most overlooked of the pillars of health for people.
And it's tough, too, in this day and age, especially, you turn on the news for 5 minutes and it just floods you with negativity. There's a lot of negativity right now in the world, and in the news, negativity sells a lot more than positivity. You don't see the story of somebody doing a good deed or whatever it may be. So a lot of people are exposed to a lot more negativity than positivity. And for those who don't realize, for those who haven't tapped into that something, for those who aren't saying, I will, it's really easy to overlook that. We're going to kind of change gears here for a minute. We're coming up to the end of the show, and as always, we want to show the audience at home how to do a couple of exercises they can do on a daily basis to really help keep them healthy. These are exercises, again, exercise is one of the 5 pillars, but these are exercises actually to help maintain the spine and the nervous system. So we're going to cut for a second, and we'll be right back. All right, and welcome back to Ask The Chiropractor. I hope you enjoyed the show thus far. Right now we're going to start our segment on a couple of different exercises you guys can do at home to really help yourselves stay healthy. These exercises, they're called spinal hygiene exercises. They're exercises to help keep your spine hygienic. You have your dental hygiene, this will be your spinal hygiene. We actually recommend that people do these exercises as often as they brush their teeth, same as dental hygiene. So if you're getting ready in the morning, getting ready at night, brushing your teeth, we suggest just add these to your routine. They just take a couple of minutes, and they're really great for your body. So we'll kind of jump right into them here. We're going to start off with what we like to call the inner winter posture. Now, the inner winter posture, we're going to be standing up straight. We're going to have our shoulders back, our chests up, our tummies tucked in, standing up nice and straight, feet kind of shoulder width apart. This is the inner winter position, standing up straight, good posture. The reason we call it the inner winter position is because if you've ever been to a sporting event, you see what people look like after they lose an event or a game. They're walking around like this. They don't have that positivity. They're full of negativity. So we want to be standing in that inner winter posture. Again, that positive posture, keeping everything upright. Now, the first set of exercises we're going to do are called our flying friends. There's 3 flying friends. We're going to work our way from the biggest flying friend to the smallest and take it from there. So what we're going to do is we're going to start in this inner winter posture. And the first exercise, our biggest flying friend, our first flying friend, is going to be the eagle. Now, what we're going to do for the eagle is we're going to bring our arms out to the sides. Just bring them all the way up over our heads. And as we do so, we're going to look up. And we're going to come back down, bring our arms back down to our sides. And as we do so, we're going to bring our heads back down to neutral. Never going to be looking down, just back up to neutral. And then as we go up again, and when you're going up, you take a deep breath in. And when you go down, you breathe all the way back out. And you should really feel it stretching up on your spine as you do it. You can do it a couple times, 2, 3, 4 times, and bring it back down. The point of this one is to keep that motion in there, make sure your spine is not getting locked up. So we're keeping that motion in there, really stretching our spines out. Our next flying friend is what we like to call the hummingbird. Now the hummingbird, again, we're going to be in that inner winter posture. This time we're going to kind of change it a little bit. We're going to bring our arms up, and we're just going to make small circles backwards with our arms. We're not going to be going forward. We're just going to be going backwards. We're going to be focusing right in between our shoulder blades. So you can really feel it there in between our shoulder blades. And the reason we do this exercise, we're trying to avoid this posture here. A lot of people with computer work and driving their car and desk work have this forward posture where your shoulders slope forward, your head goes forward. This right here, we're really trying to exercise the muscles that will pull our shoulders back, keep us standing up straight. Now, a couple different variations on this one. We can kind of move our arms up a little bit, just kind of work a little bit different muscle group, kind of move our arms down a little bit, kind of work a little bit different muscle group, come back up to the middle. Another variation is side to side. We call this one the drunken hummingbird. A little bit easy to remember there, but just kind of fly off crooked there for a minute. And then you can take a break. Again, really just focusing back between your shoulder blades. Now, so we got the eagle and then the hummingbird. Our third flying friend, our smallest flying friend, is what we like to call the butterfly. The butterfly, what we're going to do, we're going to link our hands together, and we're going to put them back behind our head. Now, what we're going to be doing is we're not pushing forward with our hands into our head. We're just pushing backwards lightly with our head into our hands. And what we're doing is, and you can just push lightly and then relax it, just take a second, and then push lightly again. What we're doing here is we're really strengthening these muscles in the back of the neck. Again, like I was saying, computer work, driving your car, whatever it may be. A lot of people have too many postures these days, or too many habits these days that'll cause that forward posture. So your shoulders go forward and your head goes forward. So not only are we working the muscles to bring our shoulders back up, but we're also working the muscles to bring our head back up. So again, then the motion that you're doing isn't looking up, it's bring your head straight backwards into your hands. So our 3 flying friends again are the eagle, the hummingbird, and then the butterfly. And the variation on the hummingbird, we got the drunken hummingbird. So our next group of exercises we're going to do are called the star exercises. What we're going to do is, again, same inner winter posture. This time we're just going to spread our legs a little bit more. We're actually going to turn our bodies into a star. Now, 3 different variations of this exercise. All of them start with a T. We're going to start off what we call the tilting star. And we're just going to kind of tilt side to side. And just kind of go back and forth. Make sure, no matter which exercise you're doing, make sure you're always doing them even on both sides. But again, this is really good exercise just for keeping motion in the spine. A lot of people out there are, no offense, but we like to call them couch potatoes. Just kind of spend too much time in one position. These exercises will all keep you moving, make sure your spine's not getting locked up. When the spine gets locked up, that's how we get that subluxation. That's where those pinched off nerves come from, and that causes all kinds of issues. So we want to make sure we're keeping everything moving. So our next exercise, again, we're going to be in that same star position. This one's called the twirling star. And what we're going to do is just kind of twirl side to side here. Again, these exercises are great just for keeping motion in the spine. Now, we're not going to be doing anything. We're not going to be jerking side to side. Just nice, slow, easy, controlled motions to really just keep that motion in your spine. If you're cracking and popping, or if there's any pain or discomfort involved, make sure to get it checked out by a spinal health care professional. There shouldn't be any pain or discomfort associated with these exercises. So that's the tilting star and then the twirling star. Our last star exercise is actually a little bit different. It's called the twirling star, or the twisting star, I'm sorry. the T's in the stars always kind of confuse me. Anyways, the twisting star we're going to do, this is actually what we call a cross crawl exercise. And this exercise is actually designed to build connections within your nervous system, because we work one side of the body with the opposite corner of the body. And it's great for infants during their development, for coordination and motion, but it's also good for adults to keep that, and especially for adults who kind of missed out on that development, really help them kind of catch up within the nervous system. So how we're going to do this exercise, we're actually going to bring our arms back up, and we're going to be bringing our right arm to our left leg and our left arm to our right leg. So it should look something like this. And just do it for a couple minutes. And again, we're just by doing this here alone, we're really building connections within our nervous system. And it looks relatively easy. First couple times people try it, it actually confuses a lot of people. It causes a lot of problems just because of the way their coordination is, just the way that it's developed. So make sure you're just doing it even on both sides. Just kind of go back and forth for a couple minutes, and then call it a day. All in all, these exercises, when you're doing them, you brush your teeth, you do them. Once you get them down, these exercises take 3 to 5 minutes at the most. Yep. Doesn't really take too long, and really makes a lot of difference in your body. So those are our star exercises. So again, to recap, we got the flying friends, we got the eagle, the hummingbird, and the butterfly. The star exercises, we got the twisting star, the tilting star, and the twirling star. Last set of exercises we're going to show you today are going to be our balance and our core exercises. So again, we're going to stay in that inner winter posture. And what we're going to do here, our first exercise, these ones don't have creative mnemonic to remember the group, but our first one is going to be called throwing water. And we're going to just pretend we're dripping wet with water, and we just kind of want to flop some of it off. So we're just going to kind of move just nice and lightly each way. Again, we're not jerking one way or another. We're not trying to crack or pop. And again, we don't want to cause any pain or discomfort. But for the most part, we're just, again, keeping motion in the spine. Really great for the body. And make sure you do it even on both sides there. These next two are going to be more for core muscles. Now, the first one we're going to do is what we like to call the triangle stretch. We're going to turn our bodies into a triangle, and it's really going to support our cores here. So what you're going to do is put your left arm on your left side, bring your right arm up, and just kind of lean to the right side there. Now, you're going to be feeling this in your legs, but you're also going to be feeling it right in your core, just kind of keeping your balance up. And then again, you can go the other way. Again, we're always going to be keeping it even on both sides. Do this 2 or 3 times each direction. So we go left, we go right. Really just turn your body into a triangle. Really work that core out. This one is a little bit more of a workout too, so if you're having trouble with it, just do it once each way, or don't hold it quite as long, or don't hold it quite as low.
Quite as far. Yep.
But really great exercise. So we got throwing water, and we got the triangle stretch. Last one we're going to show you is called the tightrope walk. What you're going to do is it's easy if you have a tiled floor or something with straight lines on it, but even if you don't need it. What you're going to do is just put your legs nice and even to each other, just in a straight line, as if you're walking on a tightrope. And you're going to put your arms out just to kind of help you balance, and just kind of lean forward just a little bit. And you should feel, just a slight balance differential. But this will actually really help you develop your balance skills. If you're doing it, if you have any trouble, if you're worried at all, make sure you're doing it. Have a chair or a person, something around that you can grab onto just in case. If you're an expert, a way to make it a little bit tougher, and then again, if you are making it a little bit tougher, have a chair or someone around that can catch you just in case. But what you'll do is, and again, always keep it even on both sides. Don't just go one direction. But what you'll do is, again, we're standing on a tightrope balancing. If you want to close your eyes, it makes it a whole lot harder. So if you do have good balance, that one will help when you close your eyes, it'll help kind of develop that balance more. If you don't have good balance, just standing like that will help kind of develop that balance. So again, all really good exercises. Last one we're going to do is just one to help kind of relax you. This one's called the trap opener. You got these muscles up here. These are called your trap muscles. And basically what we're going to be doing is just kind of massaging those muscles. So you can do it both hands, just kind of really get into the muscles. You can also do just one hand at a time, just kind of work one direction, kind of tilt your head off to the side, or go the other direction with it, kind of just tilt your head off to the side. Really makes a big difference. This one, we can actually, this is the only one that I'm going to tell you, you can get rid of that inner winter position. You can let your belly hang out and really just work into those muscles. And this one, a lot of people do this throughout their work day. If you're working on a computer, if you're working at a desk, if you're working on anything, really, those muscles really start tightening up on you. And again, just kind of work them back down. And that's it for the exercises. Again, we recommend do them as often as you brush your teeth. Do these exercises a couple times a day. Kids, it's safe for kids, safe for adults, safe for elderly. Anyone can get into those exercises, and just really makes a big difference in your life. Okay? And we'll be right back in just a minute. All right, and welcome back to Ask the Chiropractor. Again, I'm here with Dr. Neil Rodnick, and we're having a very exciting show today. We're talking about the power of positive thinking, the power of positive action, positivity in general. We read an excerpt today from this book, The Bigness of the Fellow Within, written by Dr. B.J. Palmer in 1949. Now, the thing that I think is really interesting about the way this story is that even though it's an old story written about an even older time, about the Great Depression, the concepts are still so relevant, and they will be forever. I mean, the concept of positive thinking will always, it'll be there forever because it is what it is.
Like other than some of the wording, this story could have been written yesterday and would have it would have held exactly the
absolutely
same.
And the power of positive thinking, that's something, the I will attitude, just has such a profound effect on the world. And you can see right at the end of the story too, they were talking about Lincoln and Edison and all these, Carnegie, all these prominent figures in the past whose lives were driven by that something. And you see it all the time, people talking about positive aspects or positive figures. We see Ford and Michael Jordan and Disney and Oprah and all these people who've had such positive lives and such great things happen for them and to them, and that they'll always talk about positive thinking, and they'll even talk about how it started and Disney got turned down from making movies because he lacked originality, and all these people have all these paths that they overcame it just with the I will attitude, and really makes a big difference when you look at the state of the world today. I think it's a really important concept there. But great book. If anyone's interested in reading any other excerpts from this book or the whole series of books, the series of books are called the Green Books. The whole series written by Dr. B.J. Palmer.
Or something in the upper 30s as far as how many books he put out there.
Yeah, I think there's 40 some.
And a lot of them too are just little tiny short things that he would put in. He used to keep a pen and paper next to his bed. He'd wake up in the middle of the night, write a quick couple pages, and that's how the whole books were put together.
Yeah, just short stories, and it's really funny you say that too. The way his writing style is does seem strange to some people. Some of the areas that he has that don't even have any punctuation. He just kind of just thoughts.
Whatever his thoughts were.
He'd wake up in the middle of the night, write something down, and went straight into the books. Really interesting writing style, but very smart man, genius kind of status there. But if anyone's interested in checking out any of his books, we have a couple of them that we have at our offices that if you'd be interested in looking at them, come on in. We could even check them out to you if you'd be interested. Definitely a great series. So, on that note, do you have anything else you want to say here to close?
Pretty much wraps it up. Once again, on the 5 pillars of health, this being just the one of them. They're all extremely important as far as putting yourself into a state of complete health.
And just to recap on that too, just so people know, if anyone wants to write it down, proper diet, rest, exercise, attitude, and maintenance of your spine and nervous system. If you're doing all those 5 things, if you're doing them efficiently, then you're truly healthy, you're living the dream. the maintenance of the spine and the positive mental attitude, those are the ones that people leave out more often than not. Don't get me wrong, people leave out diet and rest. People leave out each and every one of them, but those are the two that people don't consider when they think of health, and to me, those are the most important too. And on that note, we're going to wrap the show up. And thank you guys for joining us here today. God gave you the gift of life, and it's your gift back to God, what you do with that life. And thank you very much. You have yourselves a great day. We'll see you next month on Ask the Chiropractor.